All right, folks, we are here. We are live. Thank you for being here. Let me get rid of this screen and get started. Thank you for being here. It is Wednesday. It's time for the Godly Trading Podcast. Thank you for being here. Like I said, let me know, by the way, where you are watching from, and if you would let me know how the sound sounds. I'm having to use the backup microphone today, so we're going to go with that. All right, today's topic is an interesting one because, nope, can't see it there. There we go. Biblical trading principles. We've been talking about biblical trading principles for a while now, and they are understandable in the general sense. Okay, yes, I understand we're supposed to be good stewards. We trade, keeping ourselves in perspective. We do everything to honor God. But can you actually use biblical principles? Is there something in the Bible that would help you with your actual trade setup? So that's an interesting idea, and one that I ran across last week while we were doing our How to Trade Basics class. By the way, there'll be a link at the end of the podcast down in the description for how you can watch that replay. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it and see if I can successfully. There we go. All right. So there we go. When you are trading, anytime you enter into a trade, first thing you ask yourself is, well, there's a series of questions you ask yourself. How much do I risk? Where do I set my stop loss? Where do I set my take profit? Those kinds of things. And we're going to go through a couple of these in the future. By and large, how much do I risk and where do I set my stop loss? Well, this one, first and foremost, is going to be set by you in your trade plan from the very beginning. By the way, if I haven't said so, hi, I'm Pepper. This is Godly Trading, the Godly Trading Podcast. Thank you, Jonathan. Jonathan's calling in again, like I'm a 90s radio host from North Carolina. Your risk management is going to be set in your trade plan. That is going to be set in stone. You're never going to deviate from it. How much do you risk per trade? Where do I set my stop loss? This is going to be dependent on your style, the strategy, all of those things. I personally have a particular way of setting my stop loss. It's based off of supply and demand zones. If anyone's interested in that, I'm happy to show you. This is an interesting one, though. And yes, in fact, I took the answer to this question, where do I set my take profit? I took this from the Bible, specifically from these two passages. They are both very similar. This is the story of the master, the Lord, the landlord, whatever you want to call him, who leaves town, leaves the country. He goes away for an extended period of time and leaves some servants, some stewards, whatever he wants to call them, different translations, behind, and leaves them a particular amount of money and says, do business while I'm gone. There's more here, right? There's an actual allegory. The more spiritual allegory of this is one of salvation, but we're not going to get into that today. Today we're talking specifically about, not that salvation isn't more important than take profit zones, but today we're specifically talking about how can I use some biblical foundation for my take profit zones. So let me just give you a quick overview of what happened here. So, he had, in the Matthew version of this story, there are 3 servants. In the Luke version of this story, there are 10 servants. The Matthew version has a talent, and in the Luke version, they have a mina or a mana, depending on how you pronounce it. Go with the Matthew version. And to one of the 3, he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, each according to his ability. So the guy in charge, the owner, the master, the Lord, whatever you want to call him, he knows his guys. He knows what they're capable of. And he gave them an amount of money based on what he thought they could handle. So the guy who only got 1 talent, the guy in charge knew everything he needed to know about this fellow. By the way, just so there's no confusion, maybe he meant talent like abilities. No, in fact, this is a word that means a unit of weight. That means this. 1 talent way back then was about 70 pounds. Assuming they're talking gold, could have been silver, but most of the time they're talking gold. You're talking about 70 pounds of gold at the current rate of, at 1,120 ounces of gold. At the close of Friday, it was 2,860 ounces. $1 an ounce which means one guy got $16 million worth of goods. Another guy got $6 million worth. And then the last one, the sort of incompetent one, got $3 million worth of stuff to go and trade with. So then he who had received the 5 talents went and traded with them and made another 5 talents. Yes, the word is used as traded. And you look at what that Greek word means. And it means they did business. They did work, probably not doing work. You're not going to work your way into $16 million. He went and did business, traded. We don't know what he traded. Could have traded land. Could have traded the exchange rate between the mina and the drachma. We don't know. We just know that the word is translated as traded. So he was given 5. He made 5 more. The other guy was given 2, and he made 2 more. I mean, he only had 2. Well, he made, what, $8 million? Something like $5 million? Still did a pretty good job. But the one who had received 1 went and dug in the ground and hid his Lord's money. This guy didn't even attempt to it. So, I mean, obviously, the man in charge kind of knew this guy was going to fall on his face. There was a line, he only gave him 1. So the concept here, as you see each of these 2 faithful servants, and by the way, when the master comes back, he says, "Well done, thy good and faithful servant." We hear that phrase later on as we as Christians, what we want to hear when we enter heaven. "Well done, thou good and faithful servant." So we know that the master was pleased with how his guys used his money by what he said when he got back. "Well done, thou good and faithful servant." And he talks to the one guy, we'll get to that in a minute, calls him wicked because he didn't even try. But the concept here is they doubled their money. Now, the last guy, one might could say he went and dug and put it in the ground, that he saved his money. He didn't really save the money, because saving, as the master points out, hey, you could have at least put it on in the bank with the money lenders and earned interest on it. He didn't even save it. He preserved it. He hid it under a bushel. Now, inflation back then was probably not as bad as it is today. We don't know. But by and large, the 1 talent that he was given, probably not worth exactly a 1 talent anymore when he got it back. So he didn't even try, essentially. And he makes an excuse. "Hey, I was afraid of you. I knew that you are a guy who reaps where he didn't sow," and all these things. How can we apply this to our trading? So we see the example. 1 guy was timid, and 2 guys already had the skills that the master knew they had, gave them the money, told them to go out and do what he knew they could do. So in the specifics of your particular trade that you're setting up, look to double your money every trade. You think, hold on now. There's prosperity gospel coming out the wazoo there. No, that's not what I mean. And I don't really mean double your account size or even double the trade. Double the money that you have at risk. So this goes back to what we talked about at the beginning. When you are setting up your trade plan, I personally trade 1% at risk per trade. It's set in stone. Every trade I enter into is 1% risk. What does that mean? That means if I've got $100,000 in my account, and the Darwinex account right now has got 109,000, I still do 100,000 because I don't want to do that math every single day. The amount that I have at risk, I set my stop loss first at wherever I'm going to put it at, right? I'm over here gesticulating. Can I make myself any bigger than that? I can do that, or I can do that. Well, let's just go with that. Well, okay. So I set my stop loss, right? So here's my entry. My stop loss is down here. Let's say I'm going along, and my take profit's up here. Whatever this line is for my stop loss, I put it at a logical place based on criteria. Monetarily, it represents $1,000, let's say. It represents 1% risk. So what then am I looking to do for my my take profit levels? I'm looking to double that. I'm looking to go 1-to-1. If I'm risking 1,000, I want to make 1,000. Now that I have said that out loud, I don't think it's double, right? Is it not? I made 1,000. Whatever the principle is here, I'm not entirely sure if it's double or not. I mean, a double would be 2,000. Okay, fine. Make 1-to-1. I should have put it at 1-to-1. I did not get I got the Greek to English translation correct, but I didn't get the English to English translation correct. So they took 5 talents and made 5 more. He took 2 talents and made 2 more. You take $1,000 and make $1,000 more. That's what I'm talking about here. Whatever the risk is, that's how much money you should look to make at a minimum on that trade. Now, what are the odds, by the way? This is an aside. I don't have any biblical historical basis for this, but what are the odds that each one of those guys made exactly what he 1-to-1 made? 5 talents is 5 talents, 2 talents is 2 talents, as opposed to 3 or 6 or 4, 7. What are the odds? What I believe happened is that the guy was given 5 talents. He made X amount of dollars, and out of that X amount of dollars, he took 5 and gave it back. And the rest of it was his to continue making money with. That's just me. I have nothing to back that up. Other than, what are the odds that both guys hit it dead on 5 and 2? My point here is that I use this principle of 1, 2, 3 when it comes to any trade that I put on. All right, what do you mean by that? That first take profit level is set at 1-to-1, whatever that risk is. So if it's, let's say I'm trading stock and my risk is $10. Well, my first take profit level is $10. When I hit that $10 mark, I take half of the trade off. I go ahead and bank half of my profits and I set them to the side. My next level is set at 2-to-1. Now I'm only using half again. So I take 25% off at the next level and I lock in profit. I move my stop loss to break even the first time. That eliminates risk. I have made 50% of what I want to make, but now I have 0 money at risk. Get to that second level. Now I've made that 1-to-1 that I'm looking for. I have, if I'm risking $1,000, when I hit my second take profit level, I have made $1,000. $1,000 comes out, sets off to the side, and now I've got 25% of that trade left on, and my take profit level is locked at basically that second take, my stop loss. Excuse me. I have moved my stop loss the first time up to break even. The second time I have moved it up to that first take profit level. So if all else fails, I stop out, I get a little bit of money left over, but I got that 1-to-1 setting to the side. So, and that last 25%, however you have your rules set. So this is what it looks like. I'll make this a little bit bigger. All right. So, nope, that's not making it bigger. That's making it bigger. So as you can see here, the red area represents my stop loss, and then the 3 green areas. So again, when I hit that first line that says TP1, put my glasses on so I can make sure I'm reading correctly. Hit that first line that says TP1. Half of the position comes off there. And now I have made 1/2 of what I'm looking for. The next one, TP2. 1/2 of what's left, which will be 1/4 of the overall total, comes off. And now I have made 100% of the money that I set out to make. I have been that faithful servant who was given 5 talents and gave and has set aside 5 back. And that last little bit just runs and is there for whatever happens. That's the gravy, that's the extra, that's the lagniappe. So that first 75% pays your account. It grows your account. That's paying the master back. You got $1,000, you got X number of dollars, you put 1,000 of it at risk, and you made 1,000. And you put that back into your account. So that's when you're paying the master. That's when you're giving the money back to the Lord. That's when you're giving the money back to your account to continue to grow. And then that last 25% is your bonus. Well, hang on. Is there some reason that there's a bonus? Is there a biblical basis for this bonus? In fact, there is. Thank you for asking. So after he has praised the servant who got 5, well done, thou good and faithful servant. After he's praised the guy who got 2, well done, thou good and faithful servant. He says to the one who had 1, you wicked servant. Not just lazy or incompetent or ignorant, but wicked. Right? This speaks to someone who wasn't incapable, but someone who didn't want to try. So he says, take his 1 talent. Remember, because he still had it with him. There was some dirt on it, right? It had been buried in the ground. Take his 1 talent and give it to the one who has 10. So the guy who had 5, was given 5 talents, got an extra one as a bonus. So he made another 20% as a bonus. And all these, I think this is kind of obscure. Well, every principle in the Bible, I think, has applications everywhere. And so this is something that I use myself. I'm using it right now on the, Anybody's ever heard me mention the Frank strategy? Why is it called Frank? Because it's an old Saturday Night Live joke about Francisco Franco being still dead. And this strategy is dead simple. This is what I use. First take profits at 1-to-1. Second take profits at 2-to-1. When I hit my second take profit, I have paid the master back. I have doubled the money. I still don't think I'm using the word doubled right. I have risked 1,000 and I have made 1,000. I've risked 1% and I have made 1%. That money goes into the bank. It grows the account. And I've still got a portion left to come what may. Maybe it grows the account 10x. Maybe it stops out back at 0.25, whatever it is. There's still money left there. So when it comes to, hey, how do I set up this trade? You're going into this on the front end. You know exactly how much money you're going to risk on this trade because you know exactly how much money you're going to risk next week, next month, next year. It's 1% or whatever you put in your account. Don't go much over that because I mean you don't want to just have one trade on, and you really don't need more than 5, 6, 7% at risk at any one time. But anyway, point being, first question is how much do I risk? That's set by your trade plan. That's your Bible. Bible just means book, by the way. Then where do I put my stop loss? Well, it's a conversation we can have. I'd be happy to jump on a video call with any of you and we could talk about that. But then, hey, how do I then take profits? I think there's a biblical principle here that says pay the master back. If he gave you money to trade with, to use, make sure he gets all of that back. He doubles that money. I did do it right. He doubles it right. He gave him 5, he got back 10. So he doubles the money. Make sure you pay the account, pay the master back double what was risked. And then whatever's left over, that's your lagniappe. If you're Cajun, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not Cajun, bless your heart. I'm not Cajun, but anyway. All right, that is the rather obscure lesson that I'm not sure if anybody's ever mentioned before. For today, I want to mention this to anybody out there. If you missed it this past weekend because you're like everyone else and you watched the Super Bowl instead of watching me, that's perfectly understandable. The replay of this past weekend's How to Trade the Basics course is out there for free. Just go to the website. You see it's in the link as well. GodlyTrading.com/HTT-basics. You can sign up. You can watch the replay, send it to your friends, put it on a billboard, whatever you want to do with it. Thank you, everyone, for who was in there today. This past weekend, and for who was in there today. Guys, don't be afraid to go looking into the Bible for specific. Make myself bigger than being emphatic here. Don't be afraid to go looking into the Bible for specific answers to specific questions that you think are totally obscure and shouldn't be in the Bible. You're going to be amazed. We're getting back next week into the be, do, have from Genesis 1 that says, Genesis 1 chapter verse, I can't remember, 4 or 5, something like that, where God blessed them and gave them this be, do, have command. We're going to be talking about that in regards to our trading. People think, oh, well, you shouldn't be in trading if you're a Christian, and the Bible has nothing to do with modern day. The Bible has everything to do with every day. Case in point, what I'm talking about today. So you might disagree with my interpretation of the parable of the master and the servants, but this is what I got out of it. And I think that you can't go wrong taking that 1-to-1 profit. You can, if you're growing your account, you can never lose money. Let's put it that way. So thank you guys for being here, and I will see all of you out here next week.